Good morning and Alpha Day. The Committee on General Government Appropriations is now called to order. Today is Tuesday, August 1st. The time now is 9:04. In compliance with the open government law, the notice for the public hearing were posted on the Gov Guam public notice portal, KGTF PBS Channel 12, and disseminated via email to all senators and all main media broadcasting outlets on Tuesday. Let's keep the conversation low, right? Okay? Only the panel will be speaking when they're asked. You want to speak, go ahead and excuse yourself and then come back in. All right? All main media broadcasting outlets on Tuesday, July 25th and July 8th. That must have been June 25th, and then July 8th. The agenda this morning is on Bill 26-37 COR, Committee on Rules by request of I Magaʹhågan Guåhan, the Governor of Guam, in accordance with the Organic Act of Guam, an act making appropriation for the operation of the executive branch of the Governor of Guam for fiscal year ending September 30th, 2024, making other appropriations and establishing miscellaneous administrative provisions relative to the Department of Public Health and Social Service. At this time, I ask the members of the Department of Public Health and Social Services panel and anyone else that the director might ask to speak to please rise to be sworn in by the sergeant arm.
Right hand. Under penalty of perjury, do you all affirm that any and all information you provide today, whether it be verbally, electronically, and in writing, be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Mr. Chair, under oath, you may proceed.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for standing just in case you're called up, okay? The general rules for this budget hearing. Please provide my legislative staff with any document for photocopying and distribution. So if you have any testimony, I'm hoping you have an extra copy so you can provide to my staff, and then my colleagues and I will have a copy so we can read along on what you're testifying on. Panel members are asked to remain in the room for questions or for additional testimony as may be desired by members of the committee. Question and testimony shall be confined to the substance or nature of the agenda. Personal inference as to the character or the motive of any senator or any individual testifying is not permitted. Any violation of this general rule of conduct will result in removal from the budget hearing. Proper form and decorum shall be practiced by all present in the public hearing room for these proceedings. Individuals who fail to maintain proper form and decorum will be restricted from participating and will be escorted from the room. If you have your cell phone, por favor, put it on vibrate or turn it off. When you speak, please make sure that the microphone is on and that you speak into the microphone. Please state your name and your title for the record. I'd like to acknowledge my colleagues that have joined me this morning. We have the Oversight Chair for Public Health, Speaker Therese Terlai, my Vice Chair, Senator Tello Taidagui, and Senator Jesse Lujan. At this point, I'd ask Director Agustin to give his opening. Do you have you have a PowerPoint, right?
Well, we should. They said to speak close to it, so sorry if it's a little.
No, but you have,
yes, we do.
Okay, so you.
Okay, it was given to the audio team.
Okay, so you can give your opening and then continue on with your PowerPoint. And if you can, introduce all your staff. And at the same time, just remind everyone, when you first speak, state your name, and then that's it. You don't have to keep repeating who you are. Just so that it's for the record, because part of the transcript. Okay? Thank you. Mr. Agustin.
Thank you. First and foremost, I'd like to say buenas and half a day to you, Senator, Chairman Committee on General Government Operations, to the Speaker and the Chair for the Committee on Health, the Vice Chair, Senator Tello Taidagui, Speaker Terlahi, and of course, Senator Lujan. I'm Arthur San Agustin, Director of the Department of Public Health and Social Services. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to present our department's FY 2024 budget. I would like to first thank Senator San Agustin and team for allowing DPHSS to have an extension from our original budget presentation date. We were actively involved in disaster SNAP and shelter COVID-19 testing before and during the week of our scheduled meeting, and we are grateful for the extra time provided so we can present our budget as efficiently as possible. So thank you to all of you. I would like to introduce the management team of Public Health and Social Services. I will start with the two deputy directors, I have Deputy Director Peter John Camacho to my immediate right, and to his immediate right is Deputy Director Terry Uggan. And I'll stay on that. To his immediate right is Charlene St. She is the Senior Citizens Administrator for the Division of Senior Citizens. And to her immediate right is Ken Blas. He is our Acting Chief of Administration, General Administration, HR from the Director's Office. To my immediate left is Carlos Pangilinan. He is the Chief, recently appointed to that position, classified for the Division of Public Welfare. And to his immediate left is Francine Salas. She's the Acting Chief for the Division of Environmental Health. Mr. Nadeau is off island at training. And to her immediate left is Vince Uggan. He's the Acting Chief Public Health Officer for the Division of Public Health. Our CPHO is returning to island, but may not be until today, later today or tomorrow. And to his immediate left is Heidi Lujan, and she's the Acting Chief for the Division of Children's Wellness. I know you've seen Trish before, and Trish is on leave at this time, and so we have Heidi with us. And so this is our management team, and of course we have other staff behind us. You ask questions and we provide you responses. We may call on them to provide those responses. Can we start the slide presentation also? Okay, we go next slide, please. And so there is a slide presentation here, and this is a listing of the management team of the 6 divisions that are here this morning to speak on budget for 2024. Slide, please. So here we have the enabling legislation, which is creating the Department of Public Health 5GCA. Also our mission statement, which I'd like to read to all, to assist the people of Guam in achieving and maintaining their highest levels of independence and self-sufficiency in health and social welfare. And also to share with all, our vision statement is to empower people a healthy mind and body living in a safe environment throughout their lifetime. We also provided for presentation this morning our organizational chart. Next slide, please. And here we have lined up all the 6 divisions that I mentioned earlier: environmental health, public health, general administration, senior citizens, public welfare, and children's wellness. And all lined up to the Deputy Director and myself, we have the Board of Licensure and also boards, commissions, and councils. Off to the, facing the page would be off to my right. Next slide, please. The Department of Public Health and Social Services overall budget request from local funds is $68,201,580. The breakdown consists of $60,699,509 from the general fund and $7,502,071 from the special revenue fund. These amounts include our total cost of operations, local match requirements for our federal grants, and other program costs. Federal grants funding source for local match is estimated to be $124,309,502. The overall total budget request for DPHSS for FY24 is $192,521,082. The special revenue funds is comprised of our Healthy Future funds, our Healthy Professional Licensing Office revolving fund, Office of Vital Statistics revolving fund, the Environmental Health Fund, the Sanitary Inspection revolving fund, and our Cancer Registry. Next slide, please. This table represents our budget requests by operational cost breakdown, which are labor costs at $18,235,195,000, or 27% of our overall budget request. Operational cost is $49,966,385,000, or 73% of our overall budget request. Operational costs include payments to foster parents and foster care insurance payments, Medicaid providers, MIP, and public assistance programs, to name a few. Next slide, please. This table lays out our funding sources. We have 2 major funding sources to be appropriated by the legislature for our general operational costs. It consists of the general fund and the Healthy Futures Fund. Other funding sources are from Environmental Health Fund, the Sanitary Inspection Revolving Fund, the HPLO Revolving Fund, OVS Revolving Fund, and it also includes federal grants and aid, our local match. We do also receive miscellaneous appropriations for public assistance, MIPPR, Local Match for Medicaid, Guam Cancer Registry, Enhanced Allotment Plan, Child Protective Services, Medical Cannabis Program, and for Foster Care Group Home. The use of DPHSS funds is for operations of various programs. DPHS provides program and services in the areas of environmental health, public welfare, children's wellness, and senior citizens. And so this table basically illustrates where the general fund distribution of $60,699,509 is, and that's run across the top line. The entries that follow after the general fund are our special funds, and the last entry on the row is federal grants and aid, or FGIA. If we can go our next slide, please. This represents our projected FY24 staffing, inclusive of local and federal positions. The 504 filled positions equate to $31,798,564,000. The 185 vacant positions equate to $6,860,306,000. Of the 185, 122 packets are in active recruitment status, which means recruitment packets have been submitted to external agencies for review and processing. The remaining 63 are in process. They are with the department. Many positions, such as environmental public health officers, eligibility specialists, and social workers, remain vacant due to high turnover rate and limited eligible applicants. DPHSS has and will continue to take efforts in working to address this issue, as these positions are critical to our operations in ensuring the health, safety, and welfare are afforded to the people of Guam. Thus, we ask for your consideration to safeguard all our department's vacant positions, since we are notified vacant positions may be unfunded in 2024. So we ask that those positions, all our positions, are critical. And I'd like to go off script just for a moment. Many times in past years and in previous legislative actions, we've seen when funding is an issue, they will fund nurses and physicians. And we recognize that. We get that. But we also need to speak about the other side of our operations. Without our CPURO who are processing claims, without the admin support staff, we can't pay for those services from our private providers. So it's more than just physicians and nurses, it's social workers, it's management analysts, program coordinators, our environmental health inspectors, our child care providers, and really everyone that works for public health and social services. It's a whole process, and the process to work requires trades and professions from different levels. We can go to the next slide, please. As we were preparing for the budget presentation, we were also asked to be prepared to share our responses to 10 questions. And one of the questions we were asked to respond to is, are there any prior year outstanding personnel obligations? And our response is yes. We have 14 prior year personnel obligations that equate to $82,612.92. What is the status of paying off your merit bonuses? Of the 6 divisions, 5 have fully paid out on their merit bonuses. We do have one division, the Division of Public Health, is pending merit bonus for 3 employees. This amount equates to $7,854.04. They are currently being processed. To the third question, how much is your 22% general pay plan salary increase? In FY23, we have identified $9,802,001 as a cost for the implementation of the GPP salary 22% increase. In FY22, it has been calculated to be $9,745,254. That is an increase of $737,053. In surveying the different staff of the department, the different division heads, we asked if they procured the majority of budgeted supplies and equipment for the year, and the response is yes. They have procured majority of the budgeted supplies and equipment for FY23. In terms of question number 5, what is the status of capital outlay projects being implemented in FY23? DPHSS does not have any capital outlay projects being implemented in FY23. Question 6. How many of your authorized vacant positions have been filled? What are the hiring dates of those now filled vacancies? We have 41 locally funded positions that have been filled from October 2022 to present. I will provide you the dates, Chair San Agustin and members of the committee, if you'd like, but we do have a report of their dates. In terms of the next question, how much of federal assistance funds has the department received and expended or obligated to date? This table at the bottom of this slide shows what the award amount was, what has been expended and encumbered, and the anticipated expenditure. So we started off with $58,478,634,000. We have expended and encumbered $33,210,414 off the $58.4 million. Our anticipated expenditure is to spend the $22,700,162,000. The only amount that balance that we are working to expend is the $249,092 from the Division of Public Welfare. And that is dependent on the pandemic EBT plan being approved, and that is something that needs to happen in order for us to access these funds. This is for the administrative cost to implement the PEBT, the pandemic EBT program. With regards to question 8 on the next slide, how have you received any American Rescue Plan money? Have you exhausted all of these monies? This table provides the information requested from the General Administration, Children's Wellness, Public Health, Public Welfare, and Senior Citizens. So we have received $111,111,869,000 of ARPA funding. We have expended $63,592,784,000. We have a balance of $48,214,085. But I also asked that although you had asked the amounts, we also wanted to present to the body this morning when those funds are going to expire. So while I'd like to draw your attention to General Administration, while there is $8 million in the Director's office, that is very specific to our infrastructure grant. We just received that back in November 2022, and that's going to run through November 2027. That's an infrastructure grant, foundational capabilities, modernization, and workforce development. We're just starting that grant. It also focuses on workforce capacity building, as well as our procurement and recruitment efforts. Heavy on procurement, though. Our Children's Wellness has $31 million, and those funds will expire between 2024 and 2025. The same is true for the $7 million with Public Health. Public Welfare has the $685,793. Of this amount, $233,000 is earmarked for the overtime that we incurred under SNAP and DSNAP. The remaining amount is very specific to quarterly COVID-19 treatment. So every quarter, if we don't have claims that equal the amount issued every quarter, the balance is not available. We get that every quarter. And we have staff, of course, who can further explain that, if you'd like to know more about that. Senior Citizens has $446,516, and that's going to expire next year, and they are working and have received grantor approval for some of this, if not all of these funds, to be used in 2024. Now, with regards to public health, I know we said 24 and 25, but just for informational purposes, 14 grants will expire in 2024 and one will expire in 2025 from the Division of Public Health. If we can go to the next slide, please. Now, with regards to us being aware of an appropriation in reserve, the amount being held by BBMR, other plans to use these funds by the end of the fiscal year, yes, we are aware, and yes, we are using these funds for the operations to cover the remaining fiscal year. And to the last question, do you feel the department's FY24 budget request represents the true needs of the department to meet its core mission and objective? While our budget for FY 2024, our request meets a majority of the department's needs, there are 3 divisions projecting our shortfall and are requesting supplemental funding to maintain operations, comply with mandates, and administer essential programs. And the 3 programs divisions are Children's Wellness at $7,986,000, $342,000. Division of Public Health at $1,752,854,000. And senior citizens at $1,495,879,000. The anticipated shortfall to walk into FY24 is $11,235,075. What we did is we also provided a breakdown, and I'll go through this rather quickly because it is there. I believe you all have a copy of this. So by division, children's wellness, we're looking to increase our capacity so that we have enough staff to respond to our cases and stay on top of them. That is a personnel cost increase of 1.9. Travel, this is our court order travel for children and all off-island foster placements. That's at $213,660,000. And foster care insurance is $5,847,582,000 for a total of 7.9. Now for the division.
Sorry, please advance the slide.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. There, that's the breakdown. I'm so sorry. That's the breakdown for the Division of Children's Wellness. And if we go to the next slide, this is the request from the Division of Public Health. And with the Division of Public Health, we have 1.581,815,000. $1,581,815,000, again, to fund positions in the Chief Public Health Office, the Bureau of Emerging and Infectious Disease, and our lab, our Guam Public Health Lab. This is for two reasons. One, we just need to build our lab capacity in terms of personnel. We need to be prepared for the next public health emergency and to do the work that we do. And in years to come, we also need to start staging ourselves and preparing ourselves for what we believe and envision to be the new Guam Public Health Lab project that we are undertaking. Also, there is need for some funding. The grants that can pay are paying for their rent, but we do have a need for 3 additional months. And we're also working on our nurses certification pay, and then of course utilities again for our lab for 3 months. Again, I just want to assure you that Vince and his team are working with the grants that we have to pay as much that is allowable for our public health lab operations. And this is what they've identified that they could not cover at this time. And so our next division is senior citizens. Next slide, sorry. Okay, so the Division of Senior Citizens, their shortfall is $1,495,879,000. And it's all in the contractual category. And here the 1.4 is further broken down. We need adult daycare of $518,705.50. Case management services at $186,947,000. In-home services at $393,613,000. And transportation services at $396,613,000. If we could go to the next slide. Senator, this is our presentation of our department's FY24 budget request. I thank you, Senator Agustin, and members of the legislature for listening to the overview of our FY24 request. And I also want to thank the employees of DPHSS for their dedication and commitment to be of public service. So we thank you for your time. Of course, we are here to further discuss any questions or ideas and our shortfall as well. Thank you, Sizos Maasi.
Thank you, Mr. Agustin. I'd like to also recognize Senator Canales joined us this morning. And I only have a few questions. Actually, let's go into the slide 11 and compare that with, as you break down 13, 14, and 15. I'm just concerned you have ARP money and you have a budget of children's wellness of $31 million, expires 2024. Can any of that ARP money be used to offset your possible shortfall so that when things get better, we can figure out a way how to get you funds? Because I'm not going to kid you and say that, yeah, we're good, we'll take care of you.
Sure.
But I got face reality right now. We're looking at the whole Gov Guam, and based on your budget request of 192 versus the governor wanted you to get 2 more million, we're happy, you're good with that. I'm just concerned that because you have ARP money,
Yeah.
if you can use it, great, it keeps you afloat. My other concern is really more is your inspectors. I see Francine there, I've known her from Revenue and Tax, but I'm concerned about, is there fund, in your budget, does it allow you to hire more inspectors? I'm really concerned about that because
Okay.
at the end of the day, you need more.
Yes, we do.
And I'm not gonna say, yeah, you need to get 100. Everybody needs 100 more people.
Sure.
Public health is not gonna be any different, but there's gotta be another way of doing things. Hiring more people, great. But to expect to get 100 more,
Yeah.
not likely.
Well, if a-
20, 30, as you move along, it'll grow. But there's gotta be some, we need to figure out a mechanism that maybe, I don't know if you charge for inspection or charge for fine, fines, penalties and fees.
Yes.
And then it kind of like pays itself.
Right.
Like if you do wrong, you're basically gonna pay because you wasted our time to come out here and tell you you're wrong when you knew you were wrong. And the reason why I bring that up, Art, is because when I was the compliance supervisor, I created a checklist. I created a checklist with the ABC site because what they were doing in the past was that they were doing it on memory. The inspection, I said, that's not gonna work. When I became the chief, I said, no. We looked at the laws, we created a checklist. We did an education campaign to almost 4,000 businesses or maybe a little bit less. But what the goal was to make sure that when we came out, there was no doubt in their mind. They knew that if you failed on any one of them, there's a fee. And you'd pay it. And you could be closed. You could get forfeiture of all your property. And I'm just curious. I don't know if there's an education campaign out there to tell everybody. It's like the schools, not only the schools, but all the businesses. This is your checklist. Dude, get in the business of checking yourself so that when the inspector does show up at any given time, they can actually go to the back and says, can we see your checklist? What have you done today? And if they said they did this, then they do random inspection. They find one that they said they were good. They found that no, they're not good. Then it opens to a full inspection. Then it makes sense so that you're not, as much as the law requires, I guess, every 3 months or whatever, then that's when the flexibility is allowed. Because reasonably, to check everybody every 3 months and then have the AG say, we're going to close you. Half a day? Well, AG, go there and close and you won't get any funds because there's no money. Money has to circulate in the economy. And we got to keep business in business so that there's money. But the business also have to be reminded that you got to meet the requirements. And that's really what I'm concerned about, is that because I want to help public health as much as possible, even though you crowd the parking lot where we're in the same building, but that's okay. I meet up with everybody. And if anybody doesn't know, public health, one of the main business or functions of public health is in the same building I'm at, and right up behind there, or they're in my parking lot, and I'm like, go ahead, park. Just go get your whatever you need and go and do your business. But I'm just concerned. I want public health to grow, or not necessarily grow, but be able to do its job. Because everybody's going to complain. You can't satisfy everybody, but you can sure as hell make a difference that you inspect it. When something don't look right, I tell the people, one, call public health. Report them. But I also remind revenue and tax, go and inspect. Because if you find a business that don't have a permit, public health permit, shut them down. And I did that when I was there. I was happy. I said, no, you ain't doing any business. I ran into a business that didn't have a license for 5 years and a public health permit for more. But see, you can't get everybody. There's minimum 4,000 businesses, and I don't know how many you guys can hit. And Francine probably is going to say, it's impossible. And I believe that. But there can be a serious effort by participating in the community saying, hey, I saw them and I saw what they're doing is not right. If you report it, you guys I know will come out there and check them. But everything's got to be always, everybody working together as a team. And with that, I'd ask Senator Brown also joined us this morning. I'd ask the oversight chair if she has any questions, comments, and then we'll move along. and then after her would be the Vice Chair, and then Senator Lujan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate it. And I appreciate your testimony this morning, your presentation, and all the work that you put into this budget. Of course, the number one question is, your request is $2 million less than the governor's request. I'm not understanding that. And then you're saying these are supplemental requests. Is this on top of the 192 million? So this is not reflected in the spreadsheet at all?
Yes, you're right. The amount that we are requesting above is from the cap that we thought, I apologize, because we thought we had this cap here of 68, but if it's 2 million less than the governor's request, it would definitely ask the 2 million be maintained. And while that is maintained, we will then adjust our shortfall by that $2 million amount to make it 9.2 versus 11.2 with regards to our shortfall.
Okay, but when you put in your request, you were saying you were able to operate with 192 million. Is it just an error that it came in less than the governor's request, or how did that happen?
I would have to defer to Ken. He's been working very closely with the budget.
And did things change since this was submitted, that now we need the supplemental requests?
No, actually, things didn't change, Speaker. What it is that we're looking at our operational costs. With our ceiling, we don't have enough for certain expenses, like in the Children's Wellness Division. So we need additional funding for foster care services.
No, I agree you need the additional funding.
okay.
I'm asking why. How did we get a request that's so low? That is $18 million lower than what you're getting in this current fiscal year, $2 million lower than the governor's request, and now $9 million short for children's wellness, public health, and senior citizens. I guess I just want in general, how does that happen? Why did we get a request that was so low?
Hi, my name is Joaquin Blas from the Division of
Good morning,
General
Ken.
Administration. Morning, Senator. So, Speaker, we just followed the 100-290 million that was in the certified budget by BBMR that was submitted to the legislature, so that's where our ceiling came from.
Try that one more time.
The certified budget from BBMR was for 192,521,982.
Did you meet up with the folks at OFB?
Yes, we did.
Okay, you made it. You had a discussion, correct?
Yes, we did.
Okay, and you guys came with a general agreement of what the budget would look like, right?
Well, we had to follow the...
No. Just answer the question, sir. Did you and the director, whoever, met with the Office of Finance and Budget? Office of Finance and Budget produced this spreadsheet. They look at the sheet, and yes, we identified there's 2 million short, like the oversight chair said. Now, after that's done, that's what we present to our colleagues here. And if you're going to say, oh, I'm 11 million short, that's why I asked the question earlier. You have ARP money. Is there any restriction from using it? And if the answer is really no, then use it. Take care of your agency, and when money is available, then I know the oversight chair is going to say, Joe, we need to give them. Then I'll say, yes, let's figure out a way how to give you guys. Okay, continue on, please, Madam Speaker.
It's not really satisfying, the answer, that we're sticking with a cap that BBMR gave, that you're telling us today is lower than what the governor was requesting in the budget that she submitted to the legislature. That makes no sense. And, you know, I don't want to belabor it, but it's like every year public health comes in, instead of asking for what they need, they ask for 18 million less than what they are operating on. How is that going to make sense to anybody that we're going to now, you know, advocate for more when your request is so low? But I'm glad you put it in here that you need a supplemental. I guess it's semantics at this point now, but I'm noticing things have significantly changed. For example, in 2024, your request under special funds for Division of Public Welfare is 0 versus 1.9 million last year. under Division of Children's Wellness, special funds request is 0 versus 3 million last year. And then the federal matching under the Division of Public Welfare, your request is $23 million less than last year. And so, did something significant happen that either we lost federal funds where we don't need them anymore, or what's going on? If you could please explain that, starting with Division of Public Welfare, and then Children's Wellness is what I'm really concerned about. It looks like we're going to just fund all of this out of local funds, and then we're going to fund it short.
Ma'am, it's just the mix of Carlos Pangilinan, Chief of Division of Public Welfare. It's just really the mix of the FMAP and how we're planning FY24. For example, I think we are budgeting for CHIP for FY24, which we didn't last year, so it's a different FMAP, and therefore it adjusts the amounts.
To 0?
Well, in HFS, well, just to kind of go over totals, right? We're actually getting more in local funding in this budget.
Right, you're asking for more local funds. That's my
Yeah.
question. You're asking to like replace it with local funds versus special funds or federal funds, and I want to know why, what's going on.
Well, we did submit when we initially proposed it, I believe we did include HFF. And I guess when BBMR certified the budget, they redirected our match to general fund. I can't speak for that.
All right, and you're the Chief of Division of Public Welfare. What about the federal matching that's 23 million less than last year?
That's simply because of the FMAP.
The FMAP?
It's just
The Medicaid?
Yeah, there's different FMAPs. It's not just Medicaid, there's also CHIP, there's also...
So you didn't lose any grant in your division?
No.
And your division includes, BOSA is now under Children's Wellness? Okay, so let's go to Children's Wellness. This one under special funds now, Healthy Futures asking for 0. And then you're asking for an increase, 2 million from general funds. And then you're requesting, and now you're requesting a supplemental as well from general funds of 7.9 million, 8 million. Did children, that's Heidi, Ms. Lujan. Did Children's Wellness lose any grants this year? Or going into the next fiscal year?
Hafide, good morning. Heidi Lujan with Division of Children's Wellness. No, we did not lose any federal dollars this year.
If I may also add, ma'am, the FMAP has changed for overall Medicaid, so we're losing the PHE, which was about 6.9 percentage points. It used to be 89.3, now it's going to be 83 by January of next year. So that's also factored in. And then we also have...
But does that make our matching lower or higher?
It depending on what we budget for in terms of the types of grants that we have. So you have regular Medicaid, which the FMAP is lowering a little bit. And then you also have CHIP, for example, which we're actually going to be using this year because it has a higher FMAP than regular Medicaid. So it's just really a mix of changes in the FMAP and also the type of grants that we're targeting for utilizing for FY24.
All right, does the 23 million less in matching going to result in less services to the people?
No, I don't believe so.
All right.
I don't believe so, ma'am.
Okay, I'm going to go back to you, Ms. Lujan. Children's Wellness. You said there was no loss of federal funds, no loss of grants?
We did not lose any grants in FY23. However, I was advised by our BOSA team that there is a $1 million LEHIP funding that I believe that they have discussed in the past that will be subgranted to the Guam Energy Office. But aside from that, all other funding streams are still in place.
So you used to use that 1 million, now it's going to the Guam Energy Office?
That's correct.
Yeah, it's really significant to me that Children's Wellness is looking at a shortfall of 7.9 million at the least, I think, when we've heard many reports about the CPS needing additional people and many other things. So let me just get into those details. First of all, the foster children stipend, is there any plan to raise that this year? Is that budgeted?
Yes, that's correct. So our supplemental request does include the 5% increase.
5%. All right, and then the foster care group home, according to the budget request, is going to be outsourced for 900,000?
That is the intent.
All right, that was supposed to be done, I thought, years ago. Why the delay?
Actually, it's the procurement, it's already, hasn't it been announced already, right?
It is a GSA, but I have not seen it announced.
Okay, it is a GSA, I'm sorry, Speaker. I
All
thought it
right,
was
so when it's outsourced, then, because it looks, my understanding is that the social workers are now being spread between CPS and their regular duties over to the foster home as well, and they were already short at CPS. We had a whole oversight hearing as to they were unable to do quarterly visits on foster children. They promised they would do monthly visits of foster children, and then I found out they're actually doing double duty or triple duty over at the foster home, and it's very scary, Mr. Director, that is happening. And I guess I want to know the conclusion after our several hearings and after the last budget is that we were able to fund enough for CPS to hire. The issue was, they just weren't being hired, or you have a lot of temporary employees that were not being permanized. Is that going to change this fiscal year, Mr. Director? The hiring of social workers enough for CPS?
Well, in terms of enough, I'd have to refer to, I think that's part of the reason why we're asking for additional funding, is right now the caseload is much higher per social worker, and we want to reduce that to a manageable level. We are actively pursuing recruitment this fiscal year, and we'll continue, Speaker, into FY24.
Yeah, I was told at one point that all the other hiring across the government was kind of deprioritized because the priority was going to be CPS hiring of social workers, but that doesn't seem to have occurred at our last hearing. It seemed like the hiring was just very little compared to the great need that they had. Are you going to be able to meet your needs?
Yeah, Speaker, I also provided, because I wanted to give the committee the big picture of public health, and if we look at this, for example, on one of our slides, we have, I'm looking for this slide. I'm sorry, let me just find the slide, I'm sorry. So for example, we have vacancies that we have 100 recruitment packets out of our department, and some of those would be perhaps in the Division of Children's Wellness, but that's our challenge, is the recruitment, because we have, let me just pull this out real quick.
But what do you mean by that?
Yeah, just a sec. I'm sorry, Speaker. Where is my, there we go. No, I'm looking for the, So for example, in the presentation on our manpower needs, on our slide, we have 122 packets in active recruitment, which is out of our department. And so I do hear that we are wanting to prioritize social workers, but there was also a time we were prioritizing environmental health staff as well because of the need for the environmental health
Yes.
staff. So both of them were a priority. But it might be just the sheer volume of recruitment packets my department has with DOA that are outstanding. I have 185 funded vacant positions, and I have 122 down at DOA between agencies, BBMR and DOA.
Yes, I hear you,
Yeah,
and I
it's-
hear this from every other agency, but from yours, it's alarming, and we were even under declaration of emergency for
Yes, we are
CPS
still,
not
yes.
too long ago, and I feel like the caseloads are still the same. They have not reduced, and we should either be under declaration of emergency or whatever else is going to get additional staff in there as soon as possible. So I'm willing to support you with the funding, but if the hiring can't happen, I saw in the budget, this current year's budget, that there is authority for the governor to transfer employees to public health, except for licensed health professionals. Otherwise, she can use transfer authority for employees there. And yeah, I'm concerned about the two divisions, the children's, the wellness, I mean the CPS, especially the Division of Environmental Health, especially right now. Those have been critical, and this is like maybe our second or third budget where those have been critical. And I want to confirm one more thing. When you gave us this shortfall breakdown, there's a column that says FY24 request, and then a column that says certified. What do you mean by certified?
That's the amount that was certified in our BBMR budget request. That we have a document that is provided as a certified budget for the department, and that's what Ken was talking about. Here we have the original, it's a stamp that says original BBMR certified. So we work off this budget.
So how do you get from the request versus the certified? It's 9 million versus 4 million. You're requesting 9 million. BBMR is telling you you can only have 4 million. And so how did you get to supplemental request of 8 million?
Which slide is she looking at?
You're just
Okay, here,
compromising with
DCW.
BBMR
Yeah.
on this supplemental? The supplemental doesn't need BBMR certification anymore, right?
No, it doesn't. This is above the amount that was certified by BBMR. You are correct. So Speaker, I just want to be on the same page with you. Are we talking the 7.9 DCW shortfall slide?
Yeah.
Okay. So the request, basically, what I'm understanding is that the 3.1 is what was requested initially. What was given by BBMR as a certified amount is the 1.1.
And that's what you submitted as your formal request to us.
In
So
line-
this column that says FY24 requests was your request to BBMR or somebody else, but not your request to us.
Correct. You're right.
All right. There's a big gap
There is.
in this, especially I think for the public. It's like, don't go around telling them that you requested all this money from the legislature when you really didn't. You requested $30 million less than last year or something. What was that amount? 18 million. Yeah, that's really significant. I think you need to talk to BBMR and the governor as to why BBMR is cutting you so short when you're such a critical agency, particularly in the last 3 years. We've done nothing but deal with a pandemic, a typhoon, DSNAP, everything. All environmental health crises. We are in crisis. Doesn't make sense, but again, the governor's authorized by our current budget to transfer employees. I intend to put that into the next, or I hope the chair will put in the next budget just to make sure. But you need to push for that, Director. I mean, all these authorities don't go anywhere without your pushing for them. The other thing about these divisions where the employees are they're really shorthanded and we're in crisis, they are sometimes detailed to, pandemic duties. I mean, all the extra duties that public health had to take on. And so I understand that you're trying to use your entire department, but I feel like those divisions can never lose their workers from doing what they normally do. We cannot have CPS detailed anywhere else. Just can't. And same thing with the environmental health inspectors, where it's been a finding. It's finding over and over they're short. So I don't know what's the protocol But I know we've talked about this during the pandemic when it was at its height and how everybody at public health was stretched so thin. None of the regular duties were they able to address. So I'm just asking if you can establish with the governor another protocol where they detail other employees to help you, for example, with the DSNAP program, as opposed to those in these critical divisions. That's my request. I'm not going to mandate that by law, but it just seems like that would be you
Yes.
fighting for your people to take care of what the children and the other things that they need to take care of. While the rest of us in the government help you take care of the DSNAP and all these extra programs that we can.
Yeah, Speaker, if I may provide
Yes.
information to that, very few, if any staff really were pulled from environmental health or CPS. If anyone was pulled, it would be more in the administrative side, could be a management analyst or perhaps, I can think of 2 MAs, but like the inspectors were not pulled to assist with DSNAP in our more recent response. And our CPS social workers were definitely not pulled for that responsibility. We pulled from within the department, true, but not in those key areas. We had, I think Francine helped us with DSNAP, and she's an MA. She's not an inspector. And Santos, what is her name? Melissa from BOSA, I understand, also helped us. But we did also ask other agencies while we were activating DSNAP, and we did have 9 different agencies step up and provide us support during our DSNAP processing centers. But they worked through the weekend and after 5 with regard to the data entering component of DSNAP. Definitely didn't pull on environmental health, except Francine, are you the only one that I can think of? Caitlin, but they're administrative support staff, if I'm not mistaken.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Ms. Lujan, can I ask, with the amount that you're being budgeted right now, or let me rephrase that because it's very unclear. The amount that is formally requested by your department, is CPS going to be able to do its quarterly visits, and is it going to be able to do its monthly visits?
CPS, right now, they are, with the help with other sections in the Bureau of Social Services collectively, are managing the quarterly visits and the monthly visits. However, the amount, I would say that the supplemental request will be a more accurate amount for us to maintain the quality of support services to the community in CPS.
All right, yeah, the bulk of it, well, 1.1 million is 1.9 million, 2 million for salaries for social workers and social worker supervisors, social services supervisors, all social workers. So I agree. And then is the 900,000 going to be enough to fund the outsourcing of the foster care home?
Based on the research that we've done, yes,
That's just for the one home,
that's correct.
and the rest is taken care of already in the budget requests?
Yes,
Covered.
that request is just for the Ikamumanasi shelter, correct.
Just Masi. And then Department of Environmental Health, the finding has been that you're also short-staffed, and we've come up with different things. There was once a recruitment plan, a retention plan. What is the status of that?
Speaker, it's actually still in progress. So we've actually, just so you know, we did receive a certification packet from DOA for public health officers, and I think it's a combination of, one, working with UOG, letting them know that we are hiring for these positions, but also I really think the 22% increase has also attracted a different pool of applicants who are qualified. So everything takes time. That's the problem. I know Senator San Agustin had spoke about administrative penalties. Well, the penalties and the new rules regarding sanitary permits was actually adopted or lapsed into law in November 2021. So this year's renewal period is actually where we're seeing the fees increase, and it's going to be on a tiered schedule. And then we too also have administrative penalty fees for you requested an inspection and you weren't ready. There's a fee for that. There's
Yeah.
a fee to expedite.
Yeah.
And what we always say, like, when we expedite, we offer that fee. It's only if our inspectors are available and can accommodate, because we have some other competing priorities that do take more precedence. So everything is just a matter of allowing the system to work. The plan is to have the Environmental Health fund most, and it actually does fund most of our division already, but with a gradual increase rate to the sanitary permit holders on an annual basis, along with the 22% increase, which is we didn't calculate for when we initially submitted the rules and regulations with our increased fees, because nobody knew in 2019. But at the same time, it's one of those things where you have to see it work, and then we can fund them. We also are working with GCC to create, if not a boot camp, I know there's an environmental technician program they had, so we're trying to revitalize that and create sort of a pathway from right into environmental health as e-techs and eventually.
I'm very proud of the work you all did to raise those fees and base it on your need, and that it's going to self-fund the inspections. But are you saying that we have to wait longer for you to fill those positions, or are you able to do that now?
We are doing that.
Okay.
And so one of the questions that Senator San Augustine had in regards to, do we have enough
No, the
money?
penalties, right.
Yes. It's not necessarily from the penalties, but it actually is from the increased fees. Yes. And then two, we also have, based on last Budget Act, we were able to utilize the lapse funds, because funding is budgeted according to who we anticipate to hire. And so again, we're left with lapse funding because we're unable to fill certain high-level inspector, administrator, supervisor positions just because of a lack of pool.
Okay. All right. The boards, the licensing boards under HPLO, I just wanted to say it seems to me that they have been implementing this reporting back to the complainants as to the status of their cases. I'm very happy about that. They've also put online now the nursing application, so I'm hoping to see that throughout, and it seems to be a very, everybody's happy about that. I'm happy. And so hopefully, that they, so they receive their revolving funds for each board to hire what it needs, but it also needs a central funding for its staff, the HPLO staff in general. And so that was something I think we kind of designated in the budget last year. We put an allocation, and if you could just clarify, it can be after this, whether that's enough or we need a specific allocation to that. I'd like to specifically allocate that out, so I want to know the amount that should be for HPLO. And thank you. Otherwise, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you all for all your work.
Before I go to my vice chair, very simple. You mentioned FMAP. It changed?
The permanent FMAP in the latest
But your grants change, right? When grants change, you need to be very careful, okay? Don't assume just because the grant changed that, no, the local government will cover it. No. You apply for a grant, what you get is what you get. Now, if there's a shortfall because there's a mission the department is pursuing, you need to communicate that to your oversight, and then make sure we get a copy in the budget. Don't assume that, hey, we got a shortfall. It doesn't work that way. We try to make sure, number one, the government has to match every federal grant that's out there. That's what I make sure of. You need $5 million to match, you get the $5 million in your budget. If you're gonna tell me the grant change, then you change your mission. You can't just say, no, we're gonna stick, no, it doesn't work that way. There's a reason why grants, the application process, okay? And with that, Senator Tello, Vice Chair, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I'm just going to yield to Senator Brown. She has to go to a funeral, so if it's okay. Okay, thank you, and then I'll go next. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Tello, and thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. You know, I certainly concur with the Speaker's concern, especially with regards to Child Protective Services. I know we've had those discussions, and I understand the challenges that you mentioned with regards to recruiting personnel. But I'm very concerned and continue to be, when these children are put into the custody of the government of Guam, and again, they're coming from unfortunate circumstances that they're in our custody. I think we want to have some comfort level that these children are being properly taken care of. And when we hear, as in a couple of cases, that these children have been abused by the foster parent, the screening process concerned us. I understand you put additional requirements in place, and we may look at strengthening that in statute to ensure that individuals that are involved in child care, including foster parents, anyone, including those that work with children, have additional background checks. I know in other jurisdictions, there are additional background checks that also include any type of arrest. It may not be a conviction, but that's the kind of information we want to know. Because in one case, at least it was reported that the foster parent that had this child, had previous arrests, while not convicted, had arrests for child abuse. And those are the type of things I'm concerned with. So what is your time frame that you're looking at? I understand, the challenges of trying to get qualified social workers. There was a time being a social worker was, you had a lot of interest in it, and now we're competing with all kinds of different careers. But you'd mentioned earlier from your staff that you're working on that. But what are we looking at with regards to helping facilitate? Because I know you have a vast agenda of things you have responsibility over, but when we get right down to the brass tacks, and certainly you as director, many years you worked with senior citizens, the direct one-on-one care of these individuals we know is a priority. The protection of the children is a priority. Of course, we can go down the list, but those are the type of things to me that are the top of the list. So what are we looking at with regards to recruiting additional social workers? And in the interim, how are you addressing, and have you been able to do monthly checkups, and is there a procedure in place, especially for children? Again, very young children might not be able to communicate, but is there a procedure in place for these children when they are put in foster care and they do have a social worker come and visit them? If they have a concern, is there any safe word or something that they can relay if they are in an unfortunate circumstance? How do they let that social worker know that they need help? Because you're surrounded by adults that are intimidating and as so-called authority figures, and I'm just concerned about that, because these are children obviously that need the most care.
Yes. May I, Senator Brown? I'm getting 3 points. First, I would definitely support any statute with regards to a very comprehensive background check for anyone applying to be a foster parent or even in the child care industry. I would also add volunteers in that, not just in child cares, but I think we need to start extending it to our Head Start program. The second point I wanted to respond to, Senator, I picked up 3 points, and Ken will talk to you and respond on the HR side. Ken is our general admin chief acting, and he oversees HR as well. But with regard to the safe word, from the prior conversations we had in this very room, they have implemented a procedure in which when they do home visits and do follow-up, they do have a one-on-one with the child, and there is a safe word that they do use. Conversation is between the child and the employee of BOSA, so that would give the child, we hope, a lot of it is timing and just being ready and just being there at the right time when a child is ready to say something isn't right. But we will ask those questions. And that is in place, and that's been in place for months. Since our conversations with you, our discussions, our oversights with you, and of course the speaker with regard to this topic, as well as I believe our vice chair on the Committee on Health. But with regards to recruitment, I know we are actively recruiting, but Ken would be probably in a better position to respond to the recruitment efforts of BOSA.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Senator. So I know we are in the process, correct, Heidi, of recruiting social workers. So there are a number of packets that are being prepared now. Some have been sent to BBMR, and some are going through, some have been returned for correction. So we anticipate, I believe she has at least 6 more for social worker packets that we are trying to get out to BBMR.
How many social workers do you currently have now?
We currently have 21, which includes the social services supervisors that also carry a caseload.
And so right now you're anticipating 6 more. Do you hope to get more this year, or this before the end of the calendar year? Or?
We can put up more recruitment packets, but realistically, it's already towards the end of the fiscal year, so we probably won't be able to bring these individuals on until next fiscal year.
And what outreach are we coordinating? Is there anything more we're coordinating with the university to try, as we do with nurses and others, to try to get more students in the program to want to be social workers?
Yes, I've actually, we're working with Deputy Terry, since one of our oversights, we have the initial efforts to work with the University of Guam and the National Association of Social Workers Guam chapter to see what we could do with recruitment and retention. I don't know if the deputy has additional information on that front.
So yes, Terry Uggan, Deputy Director for Public Health. We have done presentations to the senior class at the University of Guam, and we continue to consider the process of having students do their practicum with protective services, and we're looking at the possibility of enticing them by providing a stipend for their time and their while they're there, and that helps for like gas money and things like that. So there are incentives that we're pushing forward with. The team at the University of Guam, they have a great team there. It really boils down to efforts and as well as people who are just genuinely interested. We do have people who have graduated in the area of social work. Many of them want to continue to get their master's degree, so we lose a percentage there. And some of them actually, surprisingly, well, have a degree but go into other fields of interest. So it's kind of like that, and that we're facing that continued number of social workers who meet that 20% retirement. So our struggles are that, but we continue to move forward and we continue to make that effort. And we definitely need to have the manpower to support. I know between our overtime and hazardous, night differential, incentive pay, the positions at BOSTA do pay more than just your regular social workers, but it does continue to take a special kind of social worker who's willing to put in the time and really put in the effort behind each of the cases, which can be very complicated.
I just have one last question related to that. I mean, in other areas like the Guam Police Department, Guam Fire, we have a large number of applicants, but by the time, and I've asked DOA, I think it'd be good in the government of Guam. I know it's difficult processing through DOA. We hear this all the time, even though we're one government and one administration. I still don't understand the disconnect, but by the time they get through the review process, you know, we end up with 40 officers out of 1,000 applicants. So there's obviously something not connecting there. I think the fact that someone's already expressed an interest is a big first step. If they're interested in wanting to be, for example, a police officer, I'm like, yay, okay. And yet, are there other things we can do in our government, like you mentioned, incentives to, sometimes it's just doing pre-math and writing skills. I mean, another issue with our educational system, but you know, what can we do to help maybe encourage that interest and bring them up to a certain standard? And I understand in your cases they need to have these degrees, but that would entice them to want to continue in that field or get them started in that field, or maybe those that maybe never thought they'd have an interest in social work to get orientated and say, hey, this is an opportunity and career growth for you, so that we can get, and I know it's a tough job. I have two relatives, a brother and sister, that worked many years in public health in this particular area. And it's not an easy part of our life to deal with because you're dealing with challenges and you're dealing with older people, younger children, and for whatever reason in our community, they don't have the care that they need. And you know that, Terry, you've worked many years as well. Yeah. So I just think it's something we need to look at. What can we do to entice? If there are bonuses that we can look at in the government of Guam, we might be critical positions that we need because long-term it may be financially in our interest to do that, including, as we talked about, for some of these positions, such as law enforcement, where we invest money in training, that there's a certain service time that's required so that our people get the investment back, rather than we're the training ground and somebody else takes them away, and then we don't get the service. Because, again, if we cannot take care of our most vulnerable in this community, this doesn't say much of us as a society here. And I think we all realize, and you more so, those of you that work in this field, the need to get that support and care that we need out there and have good people doing the work that we need to care for them. So I won't belabor it anymore. I appreciate your time this morning. Thank you to our Vice Chair, Senator Tello, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity to ask these questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Tello.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning to my colleagues, and of course, good morning to public health, besides DOA, public health is massive, and it can be very confusing, and there's a lot going on. This is the one budget where we can spend hours and hours on, but I greatly appreciate all the hard work that everybody has put in. I've been noticing, in the last year, how you've really stepped up your game. This presentation was a whole lot easier to read, to understand, but most especially, I'm very happy to hear you want to come in this year with a lower budget from last year, because I don't have one other agency wanting to come with a lower budget. But there's caution in that. I mean, you don't want to end up, having to come back to this body and asking for money in a time when you need it, like yesterday, because you know how long it takes for any kind of legislation to get through. It takes a while. So that being said, I'm curious, do you have any anticipated lapses for FY23? Do you anticipate any lapses? Joaquin, can you pass him his book, please? Thank you, Lai.
Afternoon, Senator. Thank you for the
Afternoon.
question. So yeah, we do anticipate right now, as of last Friday, when we did our initial projection, we are anticipating, if all else stays the same, about a $1.4 million lapse in the general fund. But again, we're going to take these money.
General fund?
Yeah, just general fund
Okay.
first. But and about almost the same amount in the Healthy Futures Fund accounts.
And is this funding still sitting in the reserves that is taken away from you? No, it's
not
all
necessarily, but we
Okay.
are planning to utilize these funds to cover the shortfalls in some of the other divisions.
under. You mean? I'm sorry. Say that last part, Joaquin.
So although right now it may show a lapse of $1.4 million in the general fund, there are still, we didn't plug in the shortfalls from the other divisions like BOSA, like Children's Wellness.
Well,
So-
then that's not a shortfall if you anticipate.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So I was getting to the fact that even though we may show a projection right now, once we go in and plug in the numbers for the shortfalls from BOSA, we should actually zero these out. So we anticipate using, like we said in the slide, the PowerPoint presentation, we anticipate using whatever lapses we have to cover our shortfalls.
Now, did you, okay, like you said BOSAS, right? That you
BOSA, Children's
okay.
Wellness.
Okay, so you anticipate using that shortfall. So the question is, how much did you budget for that agency in FY23? Are they under budgeted from last year's projected projections that
Yes.
you had to cover them?
Yes.
So, okay, so that means that.
There wasn't enough money.
What was
for
their
example-
budget last year? I mean, what was their budget this year? FY23.
Five,
23.
yes.
Yeah.
For Children's Wellness, it's about $8 million, 8.2.
8.2. And so they have already exceeded that 8.2 in FY23?
Yes.
Okay. So you anticipate to be whole again would be how much additional? 1.4?
Probably, yes. We're still trying to run the numbers. So I actually wanted to provide this to the senators. I just needed to update it.
So what is the FY24 request for BOSA this year?
$7.8.
7?
7.8.
Oh, that's substantially lower. Why aren't you asking for more? You already know that in FY23, they reached that amount, and the issue here is that everybody knows that you're looking at your power bill and water bill and going to the grocery, everything has gone up. Everything has gone up. And you guys are coming in today asking only for 7 million when she's already exceeding 8.3?
That's why.
And then you're going to ask 1.4? So what's it, 8, 4, 5, 6, 7? That's 9 million, 0.4. And you guys are only asking for 7. Gee. No
there
wonder
is-
you came in here short. You know.
There is a supplemental request that the director talked about. for
Yeah,
those,
there is,
yeah,
but it's not going to be enough. Even that supplementary that you asked for is not going to be enough. Aida, you need to go back to the drawing board. You know, the speaker was right. You know, the concern she has is all our concerns. You know, and then you're giving away $1 million to energy? If I'm not mistaken, energy has federal grants. Mr. Director, can you tell me why would you give up $1 million to the Energy Office?
Well, Senator Tyree, first, the budget for 2024 is 7.8 for children's wellness. The supplemental is 7.9. That's a combined total that is needed of $15,860,745,000.
It should not be, that's what I'm saying, you know, Art, it should
Yes.
not be a supplemental. It should be a request that's needed for this body to follow.
Right, but
Yeah, why didn't you put, I know.
No,
I know,
no.
you're following what BBMR
Yeah,
says,
yeah.
IAJ, and the
yeah,
supplemental
so
is
our
one way
situation
of.
year after year is that, Senator, you know that
Right,
we have
I
a
do.
cap, we adjust where we can survive, and then we provide the shortfall.
Yeah. But usually, you know, in a budget, if you're already seeing tracking for 2 years in a row and exceeding amount that you've requested for, then you got to come in the next year, you know? I mean, if you got an example of 2 years in a row to tell you not to come in at 7, but to come in at least, you know, meet halfway at 9. So this is going to be an issue. We're going to have to sit here and look at the supplemental and
Right.
see what we can do, you know, but truly, you know, when you go to OFB and you sit down with them, you've got to tell them. Now answer my question about the 1 million for energy.
So the energy program, LEHIP, is the Low Income Housing Energy Assistance Program, and for years, that was under Title 20. But the grant actually can be and is used for energy operations like over at the Energy Office. So that is another where we could help individuals meet income in terms of energy costs that would offset them.
Good example.
So this is for
yeah.
a lower,
Good excuse, but it ain't gonna fly here.
no, it's not an excuse. This is for a lower income population, ma'am.
I think, you know, Mr. Chair, you know, this is an opportunity for us to ensure that no money is being transferred out of public health at all.
Okay.
And does not have the governor's transfer authority as well.
Okay.
And does not hold back on the reserve of a 10% reserve as well. There are going to be some changes here, I mean, because every year, you know, coming in here and asking for funding and doing it substantially low is not going to cut it, but I know your hands are tied. I do know. You know, I know how it works. I was in administration before too, so I know how it works. So we're looking at the situation and we're going to do our best to try and make sure your hands are not tied and fund you an amount that you're not going and begging for money, you know, for your boss. I mean, I'm sure he wants to give it to you, but his hands are tied. So that being said, I'm going to do something about that energy money. It ain't going anywhere. It's staying at public health. Cybersecurity. What's up with that? What are you guys doing to protect your cybersecurity? Doing anything? Are you under DOA's Office of Tech?
Technology, yes. But
Okay, so they're making sure everything is good?
that is our understanding, Senator.
Are they asking for you any money to cover them?
No, actually, we are asking them for their help. We have a data
Good, good,
modernization grant, over $8 million. It was awarded to us in November 2022 and expires in November 2027.
Okay.
And one of the components is the data modernization of public health and social services. So our team has met with Frank Lujan, and we're looking at entering into a memorandum of agreement with them so they could provide the data modernization component. That's a very specific field,
Yeah.
and of course,
Who's your
we don't have-
in-house IT person at public health? In-house, in your department?
In our department, for my office, we actually go straight to OTAC.
Who?
Well, we go straight to
Oh,
Frank
no,
Lujan,
no.
OTAC.
You guys need to have an IT individual in
We-
your agency. Nowadays, you know, cybersecurity is one of the biggest hacking issues, ransomware, you know, everything under the sky.
Yeah.
And I don't care, there needs to be at least 3 blockades to go through to try and infiltrate your systems. You know, I know that OT is doing the best they can, but, you know, I've been looking into it big time and they need help. But you really need to look into having your own OT in your office.
Yeah,
okay?
we-
Monitors, because you know the breach that came from Guam Memorial Hospital was not somebody out of Texas or some from, Wyoming going, it was actually in-house. They infiltrated from one of their employees in-house at Guam Memorial Hospital. And your information and data is so important to keep sacred and close and on top, because if you don't have all this and you lose it. So please, Art, look into that. You need an idea. Go ahead, Joaquin.
So,
We have the data modernization, and in that agreement we're going to get with Frank, we're going to have a guy in charge of our IT.
Great, great.
And that's the plan moving forward,
Yeah.
and that's funded, federally funded.
yeah, it's funded at $3.5 million, Senator, so
Right
the
on.
director is correct. We are going to staff up the IT component of public health. with
Okay.
that, yes.
I'd like to see your plan, your game
Yes,
plan.
I was just going to say we're going to send that to you.
I want to see it, yeah, okay. Speaking of plan, what is, Carlos, what is FMAP? You keep saying our FMAP. I'm sorry, I don't know the,
It's just the federal share of our grants, ma'am.
federal, so FMAP is the federal share of the grants. Okay, got it. Lapses. Healthy Future Funds. Last year, we were short in our estimated projected revenues at $6 million in FY22, $6,484,009, I think it was 54, yeah, $6,484,546 we were short. This year, only in June, this is only in June, we are $6,914 million short in our Healthy Futures Fund. I did notice that you did substantially go down, and the chair has already been tracking Healthy Futures Fund and knowing that it's substantially low. How much funding did you get last year from the Healthy Futures Fund in what were you appropriated, just Healthy Futures Fund in FY23?
$11.6, Senator. Oh, I'm sorry, 9.6. Yeah, 9.6.
Sorry? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I'm sorry.
9 million?
9.6,
9.6 million, and what is the request for this year, for FY24?
5.4.
Okay, it's quite substantially lower.
Yes.
Okay, that's a reality check. So I'm glad to hear that you guys realize, the funding is going down, so. And is it really true that the 22% salaries increase is only, 700,000 or? 700,000, is that true? So you're only asking for an increase for salaries for 700, what was it that
Well, the question was for the 22%, so we took the difference of,
22%?
yes, yes,
It's only
What-
700-something thousand?
yes.
I anticipated more, I'm surprised. And of course, you already met all your merit bonuses, you're up to date. Thank you so much for that. I'm sure your employees appreciate that. Let's don't lag behind on that anymore, okay? Either that or the legislature would say, okay, well, let's just can the merit bonuses. We just give increments. So please continue on. Page 11 of your PowerPoint presentation. You have a section there that says public welfare, and this is the ARP funding of 685. This is under public welfare, 685,793. This expires in next month.
Understood, ma'am. It's a quarterly grant.
Yeah.
It's not a discretionary
Thank you.
grant. It's purely for Medicaid claims, specific Medicaid claims such as COVID testing and administration.
Right. Are you going to be, my question is just real simple. Are you going to be able to expend this or just have to let it go?
We have to let it go because we
that's
just
all.
don't get enough claims to
Yeah, I understand.
qualify.
Thank you. You explained it earlier. I just need to know if for sure you're going to let this go. So that brings me back to the ARP funding that was reported in the latest report that's given to the legislature on everything from encumbrance to expenditures. And in this latest one that we received for the month of June is showing that you still have 584,000 in there that has not been expended, $584,582. This is a report that we have here. I'm sure you don't have it. I'd be happy to share it with you, by the way. I've noticed that some of the directors, they don't get this, they don't have privy to this report that comes to the legislature every month. And it also includes infrastructure funding that's put out. And we know that the governor, what she's doing is she'll take this amount, that this is what we're going to give to this department, and then we have, what has been expended, what has been encumbered, et cetera, down the line. But we're noticing that things are starting to switch around, and people are taking money away, from certain agencies that ARP funding was appropriated to them, right? So right now, you're saying you have on your report it's zero, but yet I'm showing that still there's an encumbrance of that 586,000. Are you aware of this?
I'll take a look. I think I did bring that, Senator, so I have to look at the report before I.
Okay, Joaquin, yeah, if you need the report, let
Sure.
me know, and you need to question this because I'm finding out that there's chess is being played with this money. And if you're not on top of it, it's going to go bye-bye, and that's almost $500,000, and we know that BOSA can use that, so. Is Art going to use a bathroom, or, okay. It's okay, I'm going to do senior citizen next, okay? Go ahead. Okay, Mapus, okay. Yeah. No, believe me, speaking of which, why I'm going into this next subject matter is senior citizens. Can't hold it like we used to. Hi, Charlene. Char, I'm really concerned about our senior citizens. In 2034, there are going to be more seniors than there are children in Japan, in the States, and most likely in Guam. The baby boomers are starting to get up there in the senior citizen place. So this is an area that is going to, it's just as important as child protective services. They're vulnerable, they're older, and definitely in need of assistance. How much funds were you given in FY23 for your senior citizens? Only federal funding, not grant money. I just want to know on not federal, I'm sorry, general fund money, not grant money, just general fund money. How much were you given to your agency?
Charlene St. Nicholas, Senior Citizens Administrator, Division of Senior Citizens. For the record, the request is how much was provided to Division of Senior Citizens in FY23, general fund only. So we look at the amount that was submitted, that is the BBMR certified amount, the amount listed under column B, general fund 2023 authorized level is $8,472,807.
Okay.
So that's on page 5-1.
Okay, and that's general fund money. And how much, have you expended that full amount in FY23?
We are close to expending, so we right now are in the month of August. We got still 2 months to go, correct. So we're still on the spend down period.
Okay, and so then you're pretty much on track. So what are you requesting in FY24?
We are requesting, though, a supplemental amount, specifically for contractual services. The director did present that, so we're requesting, and these are for aging contracted services, to include adult daycare, which provides supervised respite for elderly who have been determined to be frail and in need of supervised care in a social setting. $518,705.50. This is on page 15 of the.
Right, the total of 1.4 million is
Correct.
what you're requesting, right? For an
Right.
additional supplemental on top of the 8 million. But right now, you're tracking that amount that was given to you. You're doing okay, right?
Correct, but as you had mentioned, Senator, you talked about cost increasing. So just giving, just bringing out, we are also looking at cost increases. So
Right.
there's been a latest increase in the U.S. Wage determination for Guam.
Right.
A lot of our services are contracted, so we need to look at those values also in our projection requests.
So you're asking for a supplemental request for 1.9 million based on...
It's actually 1.4 in our...
I mean, sorry, 1.4. I'm trying to give you some more money,
That's okay.
girl. No.
Oh, thank you.
No, I'm
Thank you,
kidding.
Senator. Thank you.
1.4 million, you're requesting for that, but is that taking into effect the cost of increase? And does that also take into effect, most especially the growing population of our seniors on Guam?
As it is, our current programs have what we call prioritization of services. So in the event our resources are fewer than what our funding is, we are able to activate our prioritization of services, meaning we target those that are at or below poverty, that are most targeted for services in the event, we get to that point. So we already know that we may not be able to service all seniors. And in the event services need to be looked at where we may have a wait list, it will be targeted to those that are at or below poverty in terms of our seniors receiving Title III aging services for home and community-based programs.
Senator,
Charlene, what is your wait list? What number?
There's no wait list right now. There is no current wait list.
I wanted
So
to
you're
comment
able
on
to
that.
handle everybody that's come in to ask for assistance right now under that poverty level?
Yeah, yes,
With no problem?
correct.
Okay. Go ahead, Art.
I just wanted to share with you, Senator, that at any time that there is a wait list, Charlene will provide that information to us, and then she would provide us a projected cost to address the wait list. And the prioritization of services is really to address those in greatest socioeconomic need. So it would be the seniors in greatest socioeconomic that would, if we had to prioritize, they would get the services first. And the seniors would be ranked in that regard. There's a system that they've laid out, but at any time there's a wait list, Charlene and any of the division heads will provide that information to myself or the deputies, the associated costs, and perhaps how we can address that. And then, of course, we'll raise that matter to Kin if he can find us the funds within the department. And if not, then, of course, I will have to reach out to the governor and her team to ask for additional funding.
Okay, but Charlene, this is my last one because I'm really concerned. The growing population of seniors now, you're getting the baby boomers, so I know there's got to be a plan to assist more of our seniors on Guam as they're aging, and there is definitely a need. Regardless if they're in poverty level, they're individuals who are by themselves, I don't think we should, not jeopardize, but penalize those because they make a little bit more than above poverty level, and it's just really hard right now. So I appreciate, Charlene, we keep in touch, okay? Because this is something I've been looking into, and we're trying to build that senior living facility. There is a law that's out right now, to bring incentives, because, St. Dominic's is about the only thing we have, and that's, almost, 60 years old. And we need another facility on Guam to help our aging population because many of them don't want to leave to the mainland and follow their kids. They want to be here, and this is home. So I thank you so much again, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it, and looking forward to that discussion later on about that energy money, okay?
Yes. Senator Guåhan, and then followed by Senator Cananta.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, panel. And thank you for your presence, and thank you for your hard work. I want to personally thank Mr. Carlos Pangilinan, who's helped our office tremendously in helping our inquiries from folks that are wanting are looking for their benefits. But thank you very much for that as well. Change my line of questions a little bit, and so we have more knowledge on I guess your infrastructure, and it's based on your infrastructure. Where are you all located? Physical locations, and yeah.
We have, and this is because of Typhoon Mawar.
Sure.
Including our contracted providers, we have 17 physical sites. We have 37 different offices, and so we range from the northern and the southern health centers. We have an office in Tizin. We have Hessler. We have Turlahi. We have Rancare, and let me see, where else? We have the Mosquito Lab, thank you, Francine. We have Goma San Jose, which is on contract, Ali 1 and 2, Goma Imanaasi, Castle Mall. So we are spread from north, central, and south. Because of Mara, we were doing an inventory of where we are with water, power, and internet. And so we would report that out and request, of course, for assistance. And so we identified 30, and Central Public Health is still under our jurisdiction.
Okay.
So that remains with us.
Okay. Accumulatively, what is your annual, I think you have it in your spreadsheet here, your annual rental
Yeah, let me
payment,
look at that, sir.
accumulatively,
You have it?
on an annual basis?
I think it's 2 to 3 million, but let me double check.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't want to
Yeah.
misquote the.
Because I know you got some federal funding for some and local funding for some, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
1.9.
1.9?
For local, for this request, it's 1.9.
1.9, okay.
But we do have some offices that are paid also with federal dollars.
Okay, okay. Now let me ask, because I want to try to get some answers, because we don't know what's going on. Some information is not being shared with us in regards to what's holistically going to happen. But is it still the plan, is still the governor's plan to have a medical center? Because now we're hearing that, properties are being looked at to be purchased for a hospital. Now, is that a hospital and a medical center? Is that still the plan?
That's what I understand, Senator. This time, that is still our vision, is to have a medical complex. That's what I understand.
That's your understanding?
My understanding.
Oh, okay. That was as of when?
Gosh, I spoke with Vera maybe a month ago.
Okay. No,
A little longer.
Okay.
Vera is,
No, the reason why I'm asking is because now we're hearing hospital. Now, I don't know if it's just short for
the medical complex.
Medical complex. That could be it. But before it was a medical center, hospital and a medical center holistically. That's what it was touted as. But now it's a hospital, and I think there's an ad to look at purchasing property and all that for a hospital. So your understanding is still yeah. Now, that being said, if it's inclusive of both a hospital and public health, how much of public health will be consolidated into that facility from your different sites?
Well, the only 2 sites that I'm looking at keeping was our northern, our southern health centers. My plan in looking this forward with regards to a medical complex, a medical center, is to move in our services into one location.
To one location?
Into one location.
So your 30-some locations will be consolidated
well,
into
short
one?
of the ones that are on contract, like emergency
sure.
homes, those would not be housed in
Sure.
there, but we're talking offices that are renting, like immunization, senior citizens, the healthcare financing office are all renters right now. We've got BOSA as a renter, HPLO as a renter. Carlos's division who has helped.
Sure.
Yeah, so we're looking at moving our welfare, environmental health, senior citizens, parts of public health and public welfare and general admin into one facility. We also are looking at the lower level being the access site, so that the community can come in and access services from the different divisions.
Now, I'm all in favor of having your facility and consolidate into one. Now, I don't know, some medical professionals are not in favor of having a hospital and public health together in one area, all that. So I'll leave that to be decided. But I'm all for, again, consolidation of your agency into.
Thank you.
So we can find you a little easier.
Yes. Yes, that would be my kid. I think it would definitely make it much easier for our community to know that there's
absolutely. Now, what's going on with your Manila property? What's the status on that?
Well, that is a good question. I just recently penned a letter over to Director Arreola. We just sent it. I worked on that over the weekend, and I sent it Monday. So I'm asking him to do a full assessment of the structure with regards to what it would cost to refurbish, perhaps even look at how, if the structure could also be expanded, whether it can be expanded upwards or within the general property area. We've got some grants and programs that are interested in developing a model setting, for example, and they believe they have the finances that can do that. So I just sent that, in all fairness, I just sent that to DPW like Monday. So Director Arreola and I have had verbal conversations about this. I made the official request just yesterday.
Okay, so should you move forward with, again, remodeling and expanding of the facility?
Sure.
How would that affect, again, the consolidation of the hospital and one,
Sure.
yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I think for the most part, we'll still be part of that medical complex simply because we're very large at Central Public Health. We actually outgrew the facility, and outgrowing the facility is why some of us, even though we would be well suited in there, became renters. So
Okay.
what I really want to use the facility for is a service site. I know the director's office has been there for many years, and I told my deputies and the admin team, don't necessarily look at the central site as us being there. I want immunization there. I want HIV, I'm so sorry. The clinic over there. We want our welfare program so it's accessible. Senior citizens doesn't have access or presence in the main facility. So if you're looking for services, you could go to the central site as one option. And then of course our medical complex could be the overflow of staff because we want to be able to be spacious.
Sure.
We're not going to be elbow to elbow with everyone. We want people to have
Sure,
enough space,
sure.
private space. I know that even at Central Public Health, when we were doing our nursing services, we also had a breastfeeding corner. We want to do that with better quality and more privacy. The privacy was there, but I'd like to enhance on that. And so we're looking at what we could do to enhance that site, but become a service site for our community.
Okay, so again, your request to Director Arreola was just this
Just
past year.
yesterday.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so
Today's
I mean,
Tuesday,
just, yeah, keep us informed on
Absolutely,
what's going
absolutely.
on with that. So again, so we have the information, and at least from your point of view, in what's happening, and so we can kind of maybe put that together if we're not getting the information from the governor's office when it's presented to us. So it'd be great to do that. But thank you very much for that as well. The other thing is this in regards to your inspectors, or I guess your health inspectors, and we talked about this a little bit yesterday as well. Now, it was mentioned that you do have enough money to hire more inspectors, right?
That was mentioned yesterday, yes.
Just mentioned yesterday, okay. Now, that being said, that's step one, to hire more inspectors. How many inspectors do you anticipate to hire? And these are retirees, right?
Right. So prior to the legislation being offered yesterday, we did actually reach out to some of the retirees. We didn't have an overwhelming response. We also didn't have a long list of retirees. Yesterday, I sent a WhatsApp message to one of the retirees. My feedback from Tom when we were talking about this months ago was this one retiree would probably be available sometime in August. So I just was checking if that person is still available. One person is set to leave Island who is not with us, but not a retiree, but for reemployment. And there is one retiree that appears interested.
Okay.
And so we'll be looking forward to being able to do that through this process.
Okay, so at this point, just roughly, how many do you think you'll be able to bring on? Just
To bring on as a retiree?
yeah.
I'm going to gamble. One. It's not a big gamble because it's only one person that's actually expressed
No, and
a great
that's,
sense of,
we
I want to
hear
come
that.
back.
Yeah, we want to hear that because
Yeah.
we want to know because, again, there's 15 of us that are going to vote on some things,
Yeah.
and we want to know. I mean, we say, okay, we got this, we gave you the answer, but then you only are able to bring on one. And one will help, but it's not that silver bullet.
It's
you know?
not.
Yeah.
If I may share with you,
Sure.
recently we interviewed for the Environmental Public Health Officer 1. We were very encouraged because we were told we had 9 applicants. By the time the interviews came, we were down to 4. 5 had declined. And so I also checked DOA because, hey, we need to hire people. Let's get some TAs or LTAs out there. According to DOA, there are no more applicants for the EPHO when we exhausted the list. And this is just my conversation with DOA last week, Thursday, Friday about.
So no applicants at this point?
No applicants for the EPHO 1 at this point. We have 4. I have not received the interview report. Of course, we've been preparing for the budget, like everything else.
Sure.
And so I expected maybe the report later on this week.
Okay.
I hope we recommend.
Okay.
asking them to please look at those that are trainable. Please hire some trainable folks so that, we're always shooting for the top performers. But hey, we got some folks that are trainable. Let's train them up so they can be part of our team.
Okay, so say I applied,
Sure.
and I was trainable,
Yeah.
maybe,
Okay.
How long would it take you to get me up to speed to be able to get me out there to start the work?
It's going to take months, but this is what the plan in thinking this through is like, if we got EPHO1s, right? When you're doing a school inspection, there are different components. So you can train them for very specific functions, like counting the number of urinals, counting the number of toilets. Those functions can be done and be trained pretty much on the spot. And there are some things that are more technical that will require more than just counting toilets. And now I can have Francine, if you'd like to expand on that.
Sure.
So our regulations really aren't that long. They're
Yeah.
23 pages. But that being said, just like the talk that was going on yesterday.
It's 23 pages more than I can handle.
Simple. Double space.
Okay.
So it's fine.
Okay.
It's fine. So the main difference is primarily, whether it's a new inspector or somebody from a different agency, is really getting them to understand and interpret the regulations in general. One of the challenges that we have had with GDOE is them trying to interpret the regulations as well. So what we would have, it would probably take a month to two to get them to just do school inspections.
Okay.
Keep in mind, there's other aspects that an environmental public health officer one is responsible for, from inspecting pools, restaurants, laundry, you name it, temporary workforce housing, childcare facilities that require their own set of regulations that you have to follow. So we actually, if for the sake of expediting for the school inspections, that would be different, but primarily, if you were to start in a normal time as an EPHO1, it would be about 6 months to a year to get fully trained. And you have to achieve 3 certifications before your year is up.
And so we're going to look for trainable staff. Those certifications might scare some of my applicants, but it's all a process. It's a process of coming on board and then preparing for those certifications.
You've just knocked me out.
No.
Anyway, the other thing, because one of the provisions in the bill is that the governor has to be able to do, I guess, lateral or transfers or so it. And I'm looking at this because I'm familiar with buildings and inspections and things of that nature, and I don't think any of the other agencies, because they'll be backlogged with losing their inspectors. You'll have contractors and businesses just raising hell because they're going, that will be a backlog with that. But that being said, does that if they were to transfer or they were to come and do the inspections and all that, as I think you just answered my question, it doesn't mean that they can go out right away and do the inspections and meet the qualifications as a health inspector, right?
That's actually correct, Senator. And not only that, if you think about it, if we do get the help this year, based on current statute, we have to do it at the beginning of every year. So we're going to be in the same predicament every year, come before June 30, faced with inspections for all the schools, and then the other mandatory HRE, which is temporary workforce housing.
Yeah, and likewise, DPW, people will be screaming at DPW, at EPA, and all the other agencies that they will be pilfered from.
Yes, actually, you're correct. And so we ourselves in our division have already redirected and lessened the other areas of our services in order to focus our efforts towards the school inspection. I'd imagine other agencies, if they were to send an inspector over.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, for us to lose one is detrimental.
Yeah.
So imagine these other agencies that also have inspectors, but they're all backlogged as well.
And
then-
they're already getting screamed at, actually,
Correct.
as we speak. I mean,
Us
with
as well.
Yeah, you as well, yeah. And that's in their normal operating, their normal daily operations. Not the minus yet, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's it. And thank you very much for that. It educates me even more and better equipped when you move into the next room. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Ron. Senator Cananta?
Hofty, good morning. I think my colleagues already exhausted the whole agenda and the whole questionnaire possibility. So with that being said, I just want to thank each and every one of you for your continuous hard work, especially for the DSNAP. I know that it was a significant challenge and hurdle. A lot of disgruntled people, you know, everyone thinks that this is back in the 80s where we're just going to keep giving away money on paper, but you know, there's a lot of stringent, these resources come with a lot of stringent necessity for the minimization of abuse. So, you know, with that being said, I know that you guys work a lot of particulars and with a lot of melting pot people, but I just want to give a shout out to the LGBT community for leading the way at public health, man. That's it. I'm very proud, and it's a very proud day. So, I don't know, just out of the whole seriousness of this morning, I just wanted to give a shout out to our proud pride community. Like 80% of the leadership is proud. So, with that being said,
the entire leadership is proud, all 100%.
Okay, 100%. Everyone's proud in the public health division. But with that being said, I'll see you guys across the street.
Oh. Thank you, Senator Cananta. Madam Speaker, do you have anything else you want to add?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So for, when CPS was short and they went under emergency and they were assisted by the Department of Youth Affairs, DYA, they detailed some of their employees. Is that correct, temporarily?
That is correct, Senator.
Right, and then when they also hired some retirees, is that correct?
That is correct.
Right, that's exactly what we're trying to do with the Division of Environmental Health, and they can, I'm sure that DYA needed their employees just as much as CPS needs their employees, but when we're in a crisis, we are in a crisis, and we just need to adjust a little bit and move those people around. I'm asking you, Director, if that's possible. I think the authority, you have it already to seek those things for the Division of Environmental Health, but can the, have you requested any temporary detail for inspectors at this point?
Yes, I have. I have actually sent another email yesterday.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
All right, and the, so your funding for permanent hires in the Division of Environmental Health, you've got that with the increased fees and the budget, and we're talking about, so over the years, you are going to fill your needs, right? It's not going to be like next year we're going to have a crisis again if you're able to fill your needs this year and hire the people that you're proposing to hire under your budget, right? On the 1 million that went to the energy office, that's from a BOSA, that's from a grant? What's the name of the grant?
That is our Title 20, fiscal year 23.
20, okay, and then the shortage that you're predicting for Division of Children's Wellness, is this, how much of this is for BOSA? Is it all of it?
Yes, the
All right.
entire supplemental request is
Okay.
all for Bureau of
you.
Social Services.
And so, Director, when we give you the lump sum budget, the allocations are all up to you, isn't that correct? It's not up to BBMR anymore. In other words, this shortfall, you could have brought this in and shown it to be a shortfall in any other division, but we're putting it to senior citizens and child protective services for budget purposes, but really the allocations are all up to you, right?
That is correct, and it would be another shortfall for any other division. You're correct,
That's correct.
Speaker.
So you're, Mr. Blas, you said that you were, there was a shortfall already for BOSA despite our appropriation last year and despite the federal funds. BOSA's almost all federal funds, isn't it? And you're covering a shortfall for them out of lapse funds from other divisions. Which divisions are those?
I don't have the update, Speaker, but I'd be glad to provide that to you.
Okay,
once
please
I-
provide that,
Of
yeah.
course I
And
will, yes.
so they're short this year, but you're able to cover it.
We believe you can, yes.
Okay. And then, are you familiar with this social services block grant? Did you get a decrease in your social services block grant between FY22 and FY23? Isn't it correct that there was 1.75 million in FY22 for that grant, and FY23 is only 452,000?
Yes, based on what I see, Senator, yes, I do see a decrease in the grant award.
So that's a 1.29 decrease for BOSA. What caused that? Is that anything on our doing that we've got a $1.2 million decrease? Of course you're short.
I am aware that these Title 20 funds are formula-based grants, so I am not 100% on the actual formula they're using to determine these grant awards. But I will look into that and see what had impacted that decrease.
Yep, please, Director, I'd like to know the details of that as soon as possible.
Okay, we'll have that.
And are you making any special requests for provisions in the budget? Any special language provisions?
Actually, if you're asking Speaker, yes, I would like to ask
Yes,
to
what are
consider the
those?
following. First and foremost, there was a conversation we had with some folks in finance, and that there was a thought that if a position is funded and has been vacant for 3 years, that position be unfunded in FY24. I made reference to this earlier in my testimony. I just want to be sure that, I don't know if that's the approach for all departments, but I'm here for public health and social services. We will not survive if that were to happen. We need to hire more than just doctors and nurses to keep public health and social service operational, as in BOSA,
Okay.
Children's Wellness,
All
right? Secondly is, I would ask, I know we all know this, caps are set by BBMR, allow environmental health to use their funds to the amount that they generate, including what's in there available, but not just for specific, just general operations, be it personnel, supplies, vehicle purchase. Give them full latitude to access their funds, to maximize their opportunity to recruit. The third item, which is going to be a little out there in concept, is this. Yes, we certify funds for positions based on what we have before us in terms of position numbers, let's say this time 3. But if you find in an interview that you got 5 good applicants and you have the funding to hire all 5, could we please be given the authority, instead of hiring 3 EPHO, hire 5? You know, with this DOA, DOA does their part, but it takes months to get a position, a list of applicants. So if there's any way that we can provide provisions to sections that are deemed critical, hiring eligibility specialists, we have a real challenge getting those folks on board, our social workers and our environmental health.
If there's language that you would like to see, please send it to me.
I will,
Otherwise,
I will.
it sounds like a DOA issue, but if there's language we can change, let us know.
Yeah,
I'll-
I know DOA's not, I didn't talk to Director Bergen,
Yeah, and-
he's not going to probably support it, but
Director, yes, so the hiring issue,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's between you and the governor to impress upon her how critical it is. Same thing with the shortage of $18 million, but BBMR's capping you. That is we're going to try our best, but look at us, we'd have to short fund another agency
to provide.
to fund you, which we want to do, but that's at a whole other level, right? And so I feel like, I don't know what happened there. There's a big, huge gap between the governor and BBMR's goals and your goals here.
But the 18 million.
Does BOSA have, pardon?
The 18 million, Speaker, that's just the difference in the federal match.
Well, it says general fund, I think.
Yeah, with regards to the 18 of, because we're looking at it as
So
well.
7 million?
No, the 18 million, that's just the difference. Well, it's actually 22 million lower.
22 million.
And then take away the increase in the local fund, so it nets out to a negative 18 million, which is the federal match.
It says variance FY24 request versus FY23 authorized level.
Because if you look at our request,
can come up after.
Okay, all right, thanks. So BOSA, is there a need for vehicles that is funded in here? Already funded in this budget request? My understanding is vehicles are needed to do these site visits for the foster children and many other of the CPS work.
Yes, our request does include funding for vehicles. However, the other sections in the division are assisting to provide support for that function and those operations.
Okay, and then if I could just get a detail from you, Director, the BOSA over like maybe the last 3 years, the actuals versus, yeah, and then what part of that came out of general fund versus federal funds? I'm concerned about this block grant, the 1.2 million decline in it. I'm not sure what the FY24 is going to be, but if you could show me that, because it looks to me like part of this personnel that we've been trying to hire is being denied because of this, because there's not what they used to fund out of the block grant, they no longer have. So I'm not sure we're going around in circles in here when you're telling us we're trying to fund these, we're trying to hire them, and yet they're not going to be hired. I really want to know the truth as to that, if they are going to be hired, because it looks to me, I've got personnel action in front of me that says denied because lack of funds, while we are desperate to get workers. I want to know what that is, if you could just give me the details. Thank you, and thank you so much for all of your work. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just a reminder, Director, you know you guys get a lump sum. You figure out what you need to do. It's not, you can tell me today is children wellness. No, it's not. You put it there. You can shift wherever you need to shift. Then we figure it out. And I remind you also when it deals with grants. When the grant program changes, unless you can sit down and write it correctly to justify to your oversight and to the rest of the colleagues that it's important, don't be asking for funding for something that the federal government says it's gone. It doesn't exist no more. There's no need. And you know where I'm coming from. When times have changed, the federal government will tell you what they're going to give you based on how you write it. And Mr. Camacho knows where I'm coming from. If you don't write it right, don't expect anything to come your way. Write it right, and then you'll get it. And it doesn't matter. Even if it's going away, they'll probably say, your last shot, you got 2 years, use it, lose it. But only with that, do you have anything else to say in your closing for your budget other than help you? Because we'll help you wherever we can.
Chairman and Speaker and Vice Chair of the Committee on Health and Senator Quinata, I just want to say thank you for your time in our hearing, and I want to thank my staff, my team here with me, the team behind me, and all the staff, all the employees of public health and social services for the continuous commitment and dedication they provide to be a public service. So really, thank you to them, and thank you, and we look for a increase in our budget. Thank you so much.
All right, Director.
And we are a very proud department.
All right, again, I want to thank everyone for attending this hearing and for providing feedback. The Department of Public Health and Social Service budget hearing is now adjourned. The time now is 11:06. Please be safe and take care, and we'll see your staff next door or across the hall. Thank you.